Hollywood's golden age shimmered with secrets far darker than any backstage drama. Behind the glittering marquees, ambitious starlets struck midnight bargains with the kingmakers who could ink their names onto silver screens or erase them forever. Tonight, we unveil 25 explosive liaisons that built legends, shattered lives, and rewired the machinery of fame itself. Subscribe, stay glued, and remember, every spotlight has a price, and someone always pays. Marian Davies. Imagine the velvet curtains at Hearst's private projection room, sweeping back in 1919. On screen is Marian Davies, a Ziegfeld comedian whose delicate lisp belies iron ambition. Newspaper titan William Randolph Hearst, 3 decades her senior, was already besotted. Within months, he bankrolled Cosmopolitan Pictures solely to turn his lover into a queen of the silver screen. Budgets ballooned. When knighthood was in flower, cost a staggering $1.8 million, more than the Four Horsemen or Ben-Hur. Hearst bought critical praise, radio spots, even entire theater chains to guarantee ticket lines. Insiders whispered that Davies signed her contracts in the bedroom, but directors raved about her comic timing. The pact paid off. She headlined 46 features and hosted Gatsby-level soirees at San Simeon that made gossip columns fume. Yet the price was typecasting. Hearst's saccharine period pieces smothered her natural wit, and when his empire faltered after the 1929 crash, studios stopped calling. Davies had wealth but little artistic legacy, a bittersweet lesson in how a single torrid liaison could shape, then shadow, a career. Gloria Swanson. In 1927, the star of Sunset Boulevard fame met Wall Street wunderkind Joseph P. Kennedy Sr. on a Manhattan hotel rooftop. Their chemistry was electric and strategic. Kennedy erased her crushing debts, created Gloria Productions, and poured today's equivalent of $50 million into Queen Kelly and The Trespasser. Swanson reciprocated with absolute access. She granted him veto power over scripts and, according to her memoir, never kept our affairs, personal or professional, separate. The gamble scored her a second Oscar nomination and record salaries, but whispered pillow talk business planning bred jealousy in Hollywood boardrooms. When Queen Kelly flopped amid censorship battles, Kennedy dumped both the film and Swanson, walking away with a $5 million profit while her reputation for extravagance stuck. The liaison proved that sleeping with a mogul could catapult an actress into creative control, only to leave her holding the bill when the romance curdled. Harleen Carpenter. Before she was the platinum blonde, 18-year-old Harleen Carpenter crashed a 1929 sound test for Howard Hughes' war epic, Hell's Angels. Biographers note that Hughes, mesmerized by Harlow's alabaster skin, signed her to a 5-year deal at $100 a week and began a whirlwind affair conducted in the cockpit of his personal Sikorsky and the backlots of RKO. Hughes ordered publicity stills accentuating her curves, bankrolled vocal lessons, and replaced seasoned star Greta Nissen with his new muse. Hell's Angels smashed box office records, catapulting Harlow onto every GI locker door. Soon, MGM bought out her contract for 6 figures. Yet, Hughes kept personal prints of her screen tests locked away, a reminder of the power imbalance. Harlow's meteoric rise and tragic death at 26 became a cautionary legend of how an intimate liaison with an eccentric tycoon could mint stardom overnight, at the cost of privacy she never regained. Faith Domergue. Aged just 16 and still wearing a neck brace from a car crash, Faith Domergue stepped onto Hughes's yacht and into his sights. The billionaire bought out her Warner Brothers deal, installed her in a Sunset Boulevard mansion, and cast her as the lead in Vendetta. Production dragged 4 years while Hughes recovered from his own plane accident, but the private relationship raced ahead. Domergue later recalled a fairy tale romance that ended in nightmare. Hughes's obsessive reshoots and sudden disappearances sabotaged the release, and when Vendetta finally premiered, audiences had moved on. By 23, Domergue was raising 2 children in Palm Springs. Her would-be breakout turned to dust, proof that the casting couch jackpot could just as easily mean career roulette. Norma Jean. Long before diamonds were her best friend, Norma Jean hitched her fate to 20th Century Fox co-founder Joseph Schenck, who let the hungry model crash at his beach house in exchange for dinner companionship. Soon after, legendary William Morris agent Johnny Hyde fell head over heels. He financed her chin implant, teeth caps, and arranged bit parts in The Asphalt Jungle and All About Eve. Monroe later quipped, "I spent a great deal of time on my knees. If you didn't, there were 25 girls who would." Hyde secured her first 7-year Fox contract, but died of a heart attack days after she declined his marriage proposal, leaving her alone on the red carpet he'd rolled out. The liaison taught Monroe to wield seduction like a scalpel. She transformed from ingenue to negotiating powerhouse who would one day form her own studio. Yet the whisper that she had traded flesh for film roles trailed her until her lonely death in 1962, Clara Bo. When 19-year-old Clara Bo bounded into producer B.P. Schulberg's office in 1923, she was a Brooklyn tomboy with a $200 a week contract and no studio pedigree. Within a year, Schulberg had staked his new company and soon Paramount's prestige on the girl he called his gold mine, moving her through 31 pictures in 36 months and personally escorting her to publicity junkets. Biographer David Sten documents how the pair's after-hours intimacy blurred every professional line. Schulberg held Bo's exclusive personal contract, took her as collateral to Paramount when his own outfit collapsed, and then pocketed the sky-high loan-out fees she generated, all while gossip columnists noted that the star and mogul were inseparable off-set. Audiences got the incandescent it girl. Schulberg leveraged the relationship to jump from bankruptcy to the Paramount board, proof that one private liaison could bankroll an empire even as it exhausted its muse, Pette Goddard, Ziegfeld Kareen. Pette Goddard walked onto Charlie Chaplin's Santa Monica set in 1932 and straight into a live-in partnership with the world's most powerful independent filmmaker. Chaplin rewrote modern times around her nimble slapstick, cast her again in The Great Dictator, and publicly called her "my wife," though the legality of that 1936 Chinese ceremony remains contested. Goddard, for her part, accepted Chaplin's obsessive coaching on everything from dialect drills to eyebrow arches, trading creative control for a screen immortality no studio would have risked on an untested 25-year-old. When U.S. isolationists targeted Chaplin in 1940, she negotiated a clean exit, leveraged his endorsement into a lucrative Paramount deal, and scored an Oscar nomination for So Proudly We Hail. The partnership shows how aligning romantically with a fiercely independent auteur could yield both cinematic art and shrewd career leverage, if the actress knew when to walk away. Sophia Loren. At 15, Sophia Ciccolone auditioned for 37-year-old producer Carlo Ponti in a Rome hotel lobby. 3 years later, he had rebranded her Sophia Loren, overseen acting classes, dental work, and a 5-picture pact with Dino De Laurentiis. Their clandestine affair, illegal in divorce-banned Italy, drove Ponti to engineer a 1957 proxy marriage in Mexico and to gamble his personal fortune on international co-productions that showcased Loren's range, from Aida to Two Women. Ponti's influence reached beyond casting. He coached script negotiations, inserted profit participation clauses unheard of for European actresses, and shielded Loren from Hollywood's exotic bombshell stereotypes. Their eventual French citizenship and 1966 legal marriage capped a saga in which sexual partnership and long-term artistic stewardship were inseparable, forging Europe's first post-war female superstar, Ingrid Bergman. World-renowned after Casablanca, Ingrid Bergman should have been untouchable, until she wrote Italian neo-realist Roberto Rossellini a fan letter in 1948. Invited to the volcanic island of Stromboli, she traded a Hollywood contract for Rossellini's promise to build true roles around her. Their on-location affair exploded into pregnancy before her U.S. divorce was final. The Senate denounced her as a powerful influence for evil, and major studios blacklisted her. Yet Rossellini delivered on artistry. Stromboli, Europa 51, and Journey to Italy created the template for modern psychological cinema and preserved Bergman's creative agency at the cost of American box office exile. A decade later, she accepted an Oscar for Anastasia, proving that even the most scandalous casting couch bargain could be rehabilitated by undeniable talent, and by a partner who was both lover and auteur, Jennifer Jones. In 1943, ingenue Phyllis Isley screen-tested for producer David O. Selznick and emerged as Jennifer Jones, the luminous convent girl of the Song of Bernadette. Selznick, still married to Louis B. Mayer's daughter, installed Jones in a Malibu bungalow, edited dailies beside her, and orchestrated a multi-million-dollar Oscar campaign that beat Casablanca for Best Actress. Their affair wrecked 2 marriages and triggered a studio bidding war, but Selznick's obsession also granted Jones unprecedented script approval and shares of his independent profits. Films like Duel in the Sun and Portrait of Jenny were passion projects financed as lavish valentines, while Selznick micromanaged her wardrobe, interviews, even fan mail. Critics derided her as the platinum-plated protege, yet she scored 5 Academy Award nominations under his tutelage. Their marriage in 1949 formalized a union that had long blurred pillow talk with production notes, illustrating how sexual alliance with a mogul could both elevate and enclose an actress's entire artistic identity. Marlene Dietrich. Berlin's smoky cabarets gave Marlene Dietrich plenty of admirers, but none wielded the alchemy of director Josef von Sternberg. Their first rendezvous in 1929 led to a torrid partnership he called a spiritual and physical contract. Sternberg imported Dietrich to Hollywood, reshooting Morocco until her androgynous tuxedo kiss electrified censors, then built 6 more Paramount epics expressly around her ice and embers persona. Offset, he dictated lighting angles, dialogue rhythms, even the width of her eyebrows, while she dubbed him my Svengali and my lover. In return, she accepted clauses granting him final cut and story approval, privileges unheard of for a newcomer. The gamble paid. Within 3 years, she out-earned Garbo and headlined USO tours that made her a World War II icon. Yet the liaison's cost was steep. When Paramount tired of Sternberg's extravagance, Dietrich was labeled box office poison and forced to reinvent herself in gritty noirs. Their alliance proves how one clandestine bedroom pact could mint a global legend and nearly undo her when the musemaker fell from favor. Rita Hayworth. At Columbia Pictures, the casting couch had a single king, Harry Cohn, and Margarita Cancino became Rita Hayworth the day she stepped into his office. Cohn financed electrolysis to raise her hairline, dictated a new surname, and promised stardom, so long as she satisfied his private demands. Biographers note that Hayworth did her best to irritate him, but insiders confirmed Cohn kept her contractually tethered, in part because she made him rich, and because the balance of power was sexual as well as financial. He cast her in Only Angels Have Wings, then engineered the femme fatale showcase Gilda, launching her as the era's ultimate love goddess. Yet Hayworth privately called Cohn a monster and fled to marriages with Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan to escape his grip. Even after she shattered box office records, Cohn rationed her scripts as punishment, demonstrating how a forced liaison could sculpt an icon while smothering her autonomy. Kim Novak. Columbia's next ingenue arrived as Marilyn Novak from blue-collar Chicago. Cohn rechristened her Kim, outfitted her in cashmere, and installed her in a studio-owned bungalow across from his own. Novak later said she learned to disappear down hallways to dodge Cohn, but she also understood that compliance meant opportunity. He nixed starlet rivals and gifted her Picnic, Pal Joey, and, fatefully, loaned her to Alfred Hitchcock for Vertigo. Cohn's obsession turned dictatorial. He monitored her weight, banned public romances, and, when she fell for Sammy Davis Jr., allegedly unleashed mob threats that forced the couple apart. Novak ultimately bought out her contract and retreated to Big Sur painting horses, but not before parlaying the most notorious power imbalance in Hollywood into a resume of stone-cold classics. Her story lays bare how trading proximity to a tyrant could yield marquee roles while exacting lifelong psychological dues. Dorothy Dandridge. Breaking Hollywood's color line took more than talent. It required a dangerous bargain. After nightclub stints, Dorothy Dandridge began a covert affair with married director Otto Preminger, who was casting Carmen Jones. Preminger championed her over studio objections, drilled her line by line, and personally pressured 20th Century Fox to mount an unprecedented Oscar campaign for a black actress. The liaison won her the historic nomination, but extracted cruel interest. Studio chiefs relegated her to exotic cameos, fearing backlash, and Preminger, jealous of rival suitors, advised her to reject roles he didn't control, stalling her career. When he left for Europe, Fox forgot her phone number, and Dandridge spiraled into debt and prescription pills. Her affair with a powerful white auteur cracked open doors for future generations, yet it also left her stranded once the protector lover moved on. A tragedy underscoring how unequal liaisons could be both weapon and wound for black actresses in Jim Crow Hollywood. Natalie Wood. 16-year-old Natalie Wood wanted out of child star jail so badly she snuck into director Nicholas Ray's Chateau Marmont bungalow at midnight. According to crew memoirs, their affair secured her the troubled teen role of Judy in Rebel Without a Cause, despite studio brass labeling her too wholesome. Ray coached her in secret rehearsals and shielded her from domineering Warner executives. She, in turn, provided the sexual leverage he needed to keep competitors off the project. The performance earned Wood her first Oscar nomination and rebranded her as a dramatic actress overnight. Yet Whisper Networks branded her Ray's Girl, complicating future negotiations, and when a pregnancy scare rocked the clandestine couple, Ray pulled away, leaving Wood to navigate adult stardom alone at 17. The episode spotlights how the promise of one defining role could tempt a desperate teenager into an affair that Hollywood history records as both career-making and heartbreakingly exploitative. Jane Russell. When 19-year-old Jane Russell stepped onto Howard Hughes' set for The Outlaw, she was an unknown showroom model with a smoky alto voice and exactly the physical proportions Hughes had been scouting. Their relationship turned intensely personal during a 2-year production odyssey in which the tycoon designed a special underwire bra for her, posed her for pinups, and waged a 5-year censorship war that converted bedroom gossip into headline hype. Hughes's marketing genius and his willingness to bankroll reshoots whenever Russell pleased him made her a World War II pinup before audiences saw a single frame. In gratitude, she accepted a 7-year contract that allowed Hughes to loan her to other studios at huge profit, starting with Young Widow and later RKO musicals that he personally greenlit. By the time she moved to 20th Century Fox for Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Russell was one of Hollywood's top 10 box office draws, proof that a private liaison with the world's richest producer could spin one poster girl into a bankable brand overnight. Ida Lupino. British ingenue Ida Lupino met Howard Hughes at 17 when he signed her to a $1,000 a week contract and whisked her onto his personal flight roster of protégé. Their on-again, off-again affair stretched into the 1950s. Every time Lupino's career stalled, Hughes re-entered her life with another offer, culminating in a 3-picture distribution deal for her rebel production company, The Filmmakers, after she reinvented herself as Hollywood's only female noir director. Hughes's financing let Lupino shoot taboo subjects, rape, bigamy, with near-total creative control, but the bargain was double-edged. His jealous tinkering stalled release schedules and saddled her with debt when RKO collapsed. Still, Lupino emerged a trailblazer whose auteur status owes as much to her negotiating nerve in Hughes's bedroom as to her brilliance behind the camera, illustrating how a calculated romance could crack the studio ceiling at a steep personal tariff. Ava Gardner. North Carolina farm girl Ava Gardner arrived in Hollywood with a thick drawl and a face that halted traffic on Sunset. Howard Hughes noticed first, showering her with jewels, press agents, and hush-money airline tickets after late-night escapades. Although Gardner maintained she was never in love with him, she conceded that Hughes's RKO connections and relentless gift-giving smoothed her leap from walk-ons at MGM to marquee roles like The Killers and Showboat. Hughes also deployed his newspaper clout to bury unfriendly gossip when Gardner's volatile marriage to Frank Sinatra threatened her image during the Mogambo shoot. The quid pro quo was clear. She tolerated Hughes's possessive surveillance while he wielded his billions to insulate her career, proving how intimacy with a mogul could serve as an informal insurance policy in an era when one scandal, or one rival, could end a star's run overnight. Bella Darvy. In 1952, Polish émigré Bajla Węgier gained a new passport, a new name, Bella Darvy, a portmanteau of benefactors Daryl and Virginia Zanuck, and a penthouse on Sunset. The 20th Century Fox titan installed Darvy as his live-in mistress, then bulldozed her into starring roles in Hell and High Water and The Egyptian over the protests of casting directors who felt her accent was radioactive. Zanuck lavished her with couture and a $10,000 a week publicity blitz, positioning her as the studio's next continental temptress. But the fairy tale soured as critics savaged her wooden line readings and Zanuck's wife demanded a public separation. When the mogul finally exiled her to Paris, Darvy's career evaporated, her stardom exposed as a gilded mirage sustained by one powerful man's obsession. Her rise and fall remains the textbook cautionary tale of how the casting couch could elevate an unknown to Cleopatra's throne, only to yank it away the moment the romance cooled. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton's autobiography, I Am Not Ashamed, opens with a blunt admission. I traded flesh for film. The 22-year-old blonde bombshell burst onto Warner Brothers. Lot in Kiss Tomorrow Goodbye opposite James Cagney, but when the studio's B unit stalled her ascent, she turned to the nightclubs of Sunset Boulevard, lining up assignations with producers who promised roles. Gifts arrived, white mink, a Jaguar convertible, alongside contracts for Only the Valiant and Bride of the Gorilla. Yet the bargains demanded perpetual payment. After her violent love triangle with Tom Neal and Franchot Tone made tabloid front pages, Payton found doors slammed shut unless she sweetened negotiations with sex. By 33, she was hustling on Sunset for $40 a trick, her once luminous face ravaged by booze and heroin. Payton's self-written confession strips away glamour, exposing the casting couch as a slow-motion guillotine that offered fame one night and devoured its debtor the next. Joan Crawford. When Joan Crawford stormed onto the Warner lot in 1950 for The Damned Don't Cry, the cameras weren't the only things rolling. Director Vincent Sherman, 38, married and hot off Mr. Skeffington, later admitted that Crawford seduced him with a masculine will the first night of rehearsals. Over the next 3 years, they made 3 hard-boiled melodramas together, each one cranked out after late-night script sessions that began with whiskey and ended in Sherman's Cadillac. Crawford leveraged the affair to reinvent herself as a gritty post-MGM siren. She won top billing over younger rivals, demanded pickups to soften shadows on close-ups, and even rewrote dialogue mid-embrace. Sherman, dazzled, fought studio brass for extra shooting days and let Crawford hand-pick wardrobe that flaunted her shoulder-pad silhouette. But the bargain had a ceiling. Sherman refused divorce, gossip leaked, and Warner's publicity machine spun their liaison into temperamental on-set drama. When the director finally ended things, Crawford's slate evaporated overnight, a brutal reminder that even a steel-spined superstar could still be tethered to the whims of one powerful lover. Bette Davis Warner Brothers handed Bette Davis the antebellum potboiler Jezebel only after she lost Gone with the Wind, but director William Wyler offered her more than consolation. Their on-set arguments were legendary, yet nights ended in Wyler's bungalow, where rehearsals blurred into pillow talk rewrites. He coaxed Davis into risking raw vulnerability. No false eyelashes, no soft focus, just that searing, unblinking glare the role demanded. The result, her second Oscar, shattered typecasting and vaulted her salary past every actress in town. Wyler repaid her trust by insisting she receive top billing and cutting a scene that diluted her final monologue. Davis later called him the love of my life and the toughest director I ever had. But the affair's fallout was fierce. Studio chief Jack Warner, furious over blown schedules and rumors, slapped her with back-to-back programmers while Wyler moved to MGM. Their incendiary partnership proved that surrendering to a director's bed could unlock career-defining artistry, yet the exit wound could be just as spectacular. Linda Darnell. By 24, Linda Darnell was already Fox's resident, girl with the perfect face, but she craved meatier parts than ingenue froth. Enter Joseph L. Mankiewicz, Harvard smart, freshly separated, and scripting A Letter to Three Wives. Their affair ignited during line readings. By lunch breaks, they were scouting private bungalows for reshoots. Mankiewicz rewrote entire scenes to highlight Darnell's simmering world weariness, overruled casting boards that wanted a bigger name, and even coached her to drop her Tex-Mex accent for crisp mid-Atlantic diction. The film scored him an Oscar for screenplay, and Darnell the reviews she'd chased for years. Yet passion bled into possessiveness. He blocked her from signing a rival studio contract and urged her to reject roles he deemed beneath his muse. After 6 intense years, Darnell walked away, only to find Fox pigeonholing her in costume epics, while Mankiewicz lavished new favorites. Her story exposes the razor's edge, A romance that unlocked dramatic legitimacy also welded her fortunes to one man's fading attention span. Evelyn Keys. Fresh off a bit part in Gone with the Wind, 20-year-old Evelyn Keys landed in the marble office of Harry Cohn, Columbia's tyrannical studio chief. Keys later recalled that Cohn offered a 7-year contract and other considerations, code she soon learned meant afternoon visits via a hidden corridor that linked starlet dressing rooms to his suite. Cohn rewarded acquiescence with prime slots opposite Glenn Ford and Larry Parks, and personally spiked gossip columns that snickered about her Georgia twang. Keys parlayed the arrangement into noir leads in The Prowler and Johnny O'Clock, but the cost mounted. Cohn rationed scripts whenever she dated outside his orbit and threatened that "you'll never be bigger than you are now" if she tried to leave. By 1953, the actress broke free, marrying director Charles Vidor and later John Huston, only to watch Columbia bury her under B Pictures in retaliation. Keys's candid memoir summed it up. "I always took up with the man of the moment, and there were many such moments." Carol Landis. She entered Fox as a statuesque cave girl in 1,000,000 BC, but behind the tiki torches pulsed a 4 p.m. ritual known across the lot. Daryl F. Zanuck would down tools, disappear through a private tunnel, and emerge with a different starlet. For nearly 2 years, the married studio head chose Carol Landis. He doubled her salary, ordered custom musicals to showcase her contralto, and flooded theaters with cheesecake posters that crowned her the Ping Girl. Landis accepted the quid pro quo, believing Zanuck's promise of A-list longevity. Instead, the affair tagged her as his kept girl, and when she ended it, roles shrank to dime store noirs. Classified memos reveal Zanuck personally vetoed her casting in My Gal Sal, telling staff, "She's done. Get me someone fresh." Despairing over a stalled career and public breakup with Rex Harrison, Landis overdosed at 39, leaving a note that Hollywood never released. Her meteoric ascent and harrowing collapse remains the casting couch's darkest cautionary tale. Hollywood's golden glow often hides a currency more costly than any box office bomb, desire weaponized as opportunity. These 25 stories aren't gossip. They're ledgers of power, pleasure, and peril that still echo today. If their courage or caution gripped you, subscribe and share. The next reel of hidden history rolls soon.